you went through your cancer journey 3 times the hard way so that I only had to go through it 1 time. It is a blessing. So thank you for, even without even knowing it, protecting me.
Good. Thank you. Because you always have that guilt idea, making sure that your daughter that you love so much and that you're very protective as a mother, and all mothers know that we protect our kids no matter what. But you're doing well. You're on the positive road. It helps me to be positive, knowing that you're getting great care and you're proactive. Things that are in your control, I tell people, it's in your control. I would advise you to do it. People have different reasons for why. Maybe they don't want to know, they don't want to do whatever, for whatever reason. And that's your right. But it's been a blessing for us.
Hi, I'm Peavy.
Hi, I'm Jamie, and welcome to Blank is a Mother podcast. We've been best friends since college, and we're using a comparative lens to share how we're coming into our power after 40.
We aren't supposed to compare, right? Well, we all know that's not realistic.
We started this podcast when our boys were toddlers. They are growing fast, and we've been growing too.
The first few years of motherhood shook our lives and friendship like no other experience has. And by comparing and contrasting our evolution up to that point in our lives and beyond, we have discovered the strongest threads of sisterhood yet.
Listen, we don't have all the answers. We sure have made some missteps.
Follow along as we do our best to nurture our friendship and build an inclusive community while making 1,000 tiny mama decisions in an unfair world.
Hi, I'm Jamie, and welcome to Blank is a Mother podcast. We have a very unique and amazing episode today and an opportunity for all of you all to meet my mom, affectionately called Mama Beal, Mama Maxine, Miss Maxine, any of those things. Peavy has graciously decided to sit this one out so that we can have Mama Beal fill in as our co-host for this special episode in October for Breast Cancer Awareness Month. So without further ado, I want to introduce my mom, my best friend, the strongest and coolest chick that I know, Miss Maxine Beal. Like I said, Mama Beal, Maxine Beal, or Mom for me. So Mommy, welcome to the Blank is a Mother podcast today.
Thank you. So happy to be here.
You are so cute. Y'all can't see us, but I need to tell you this. We did not plan this way, but it worked out this way. We are currently in Las Vegas because Mommy and I have yet to have a mommy-daughter trip, especially over the last year with my breast cancer journey, which you're all aware of and have been following along my journey with me. And thank you for all of your support. And so because Mom has been going through her own journey with me, and we'll talk about our respective journeys, we said, you know what, we need some time to get away, just mommy-daughter, celebrate each other, pour into each other, love on each other, and just talk about our respective journeys. So we took a girls' getaway to Las Vegas. We're here in our hotel room now with our matching breast cancer shirts. We have these beautiful shirts with Black women on them. And we also have these matching tennis shoes, which, funny enough, are a limited edition Easy Spirit shoe called the Maxine, which is crazy. I didn't make it up, y'all. So we have our matching gear on today and our matching bracelets. So we're swagged out today in our breast cancer gear, but we get to celebrate our respective journeys together this month on our girls and mommy-daughter weekend getaway. So now that we are here live in the flesh, Mommy, I would love it if maybe you could just tell us a little bit about your breast cancer journeys. And for the community, I say journeys because, as some of you may not know, my amazing, strong, brave mother is a 3-time breast cancer survivor, which is just unreal. So, Mommy, do you mind just giving us a little bit of history on your journey, maybe when you were first diagnosed, and just take us through that and tell us a little bit about your journey and what you've learned along the way?
Okay, I'd love to. First of all, my journey actually started in 1998 when I first got diagnosed, and I just had a fit almost when the doctor told me from Johns Hopkins that I did have breast cancer. And so immediately I get all of the feelings of, oh, what's going to happen to me? What's going to happen to my family? Am I going to die?
Mhm.
Because I had not been associated with anyone with breast cancer. So this whole journey was scary for me. But through this whole journey, I have come to appreciate, for number one, that I did learn about the breast cancer issues, what it entailed, what I needed to do to keep myself healthy and my daughter healthy as well. Things that I did not know before.
Mommy, can I ask you this really quickly?
Mhm.
Your first journey was in 1998. Can you tell about how you were diagnosed? Like, was it through your mammograms? And then what stage you were when you were first diagnosed?
It was diagnosed through my mammogram, and actually it was stage 3. During that period of time, once I got over that initial shock, not knowing what stage would carry complications and all, I immediately said, okay, after I pulled myself together, my options were a lumpectomy or mastectomy. And of course, I wanted to do the most conservative way, which was to do the lumpectomy. And I knew I'd have to have chemo and radiation as a result of them removing the lump. So I decided to go ahead and do that. And once the lump was removed, I had to do my chemo and about 38 rounds of radiation to try and keep it to where it was. So that was a journey that I initially took. And then that was good. That was on my left side.
Can I add one thing, Mommy?
Mhm.
That didn't they also, you had to have lymph nodes removed as well, right? Through that
Right.
journey?
Yes, I was going to say, so during that whole process, they had to remove lymph nodes. It had spread it to my lymph node area so that it could be removed and not cause any further damage. And so as a result of the lymph nodes being removed, it also came with some side effects because, even now I have to wear a lymphedema sleeve for the swelling if it's too hot or if I work with it too much. But God is good. That's a blessing. I can still use it. And, I do what I need to do to relieve the swelling and discomfort when I get it.
So that was your first journey, Mommy. And I will say, going through it with you as a passenger had
Like
its
that.
own. Yeah, you were in the driver's seat and Daddy and James and I were in the passenger seat because, like Mom said, we didn't know anybody that had ever had breast cancer. And so in 98, it sounded like a death sentence. We didn't know what to expect. We were all freaking out, but we didn't want to freak out in front of Mom because we knew we didn't want her to be worried about us because, as moms, you worry about everybody else around you, maybe less about yourself in that moment. So Mom's processing her journey. We're processing it. And that was my freshman year of college. So I had just gone to school and we got the news that Mommy had been diagnosed with breast cancer and we all were just taken aback. We just didn't know anything about it. So we're thankful for Johns Hopkins and their care and staying on top of Mommy so that she could get through that first journey the way that you did. And I remember with Mommy when she lost her hair and she was so self-conscious about it, which back then when you don't know anything and you are trying to be positive, we talk about toxic positivity in past episodes. I can acknowledge now, Mommy, that we were like, oh, it's just hair. Like, it'll go back. It's fine. But now, as someone that's gone through my own journey, even though I didn't go through chemo, but now we know more people that have gone through it. It's not just about hair. It's a part of your body and how you identify. Can you talk about how that was for you, Mommy, when you first had to lose your hair and how you navigated through that?
Yeah, it was very nerve-wracking when I noticed my hair coming out. I would try and pat it down and hold it down as long as I could with a scarf or anything just to keep it there. And it eventually shed it where it was totally bald. But, doing the treatment plan and getting over the chemo and the radiation, it gradually started coming back real slowly, but it came back. And I think when you go through this, you realize, yes, your hair is a part of you. But my oncologist reminded me, okay, Maxine, do you want to have hair or do you want to have cancer? And then when you put it in perspective, it's like, okay, yeah, I guess I could get a wig or something, which I did. It was very eye-opening
Mm-hmm.
for me, because you wonder as a woman, physically how you look, with your family and how they perceive you differently when you're walking around with a beanie on your head. But when I look back on it now, it was like it was a small part of my journey,
Mm-hmm.
and I got over it.
You did. Can
Yeah.
I tell you all this? Mom, if you don't know, this is an Advit. It used to be an Advit water aerobics junkie, y'all. She would hop in that pool, dare not be in her spot because she's going to splash you to get out of the way. And so I remember going to water aerobics with you after a couple chemo sessions. So you were a champ, Ma, because you went through chemo. And then after a couple sessions, you were able to still keep up with your water aerobics. And what you always tell us, our attitude determines our altitude. So you were positive throughout. But hopefully you also allowed yourself to feel the other emotions that come along. Not to sit and dwell on them, but did you allow yourself to feel those other emotions that come along as well?
Well, eventually. But I think the first thing is, okay, what's going to happen to me? Who's going to take care of my family? Who's going to get my husband? Great guy. Who's going to be there to take care of my children? Even though, like you had mentioned, you were first year in college, but still, I think as a mother, all of these feelings resonate with, oh, God, what am I going to do? But after the treatment and you get over the nausea and some of the other things, you have to be resilient and just fight your way back. And that's what I tried to do, I didn't want you guys worrying about how I was feeling or any of those feelings. But in retrospect, it was a journey, I have to say. But I'm here today. I mean, I'm over 70 years old, so.
And cute as a button. You're talking about that beanie and your little pea head. It was cute.
Oh, God.
So you are a blessing to all of us. You're the matriarch. So we had to make sure you were good so that we could be good. And then through that, once we supported Mommy through her first one, and Mommy was a champ going through the first one, then fast forward 7-8 years later, and then can you talk through your second journey?
Yeah, after I had the lumpectomy in the left breast, another mammogram, it showed that the cancer had come back, but this time on the right side. So it was like, woe is me, but I had gone through it. Once they did a lot of the testing and all of that, I opted not to do another lumpectomy, but to do a reconstruction, which entail a little bit more surgery because, taking fat from one area, putting it in the other area to give that womanly look of your breast or your milkies, I call them.
Lord gee, y'all gonna learn all of our little names today because I have milkies and Mommy has milkies. Go ahead.
Yeah.
What's your milkies?
To put them back in perspective. So it was a different kind of journey in that, I didn't do the radiation or chemo or any of that, but, having them remove surgery. I mean,
you did a single mastectomy. That's what you're saying.
Right,
yeah.
On that side, of course. And then, the reconstruction to do it. And so, again, I moved forward, being very positive that everything was going to be fine and I was in the best of care. And I had the best support system, which is very important when you're going through any kind of journey, but specifically this journey. After the guilt feelings of, oh, wow, I passed this BRCA gene on to Jamie, and, I felt really guilty because, that was before I even knew Jamie was going to be a breast cancer survivor, but just the idea that life gives you sometimes roadblocks. In this particular roadblock, I found out through a great team at Hopkins and, how it could affect your family emotionally, mentally, and then passing it along.
So can I go back just to add a little bit more meat there, that during your second journey and after you were diagnosed with breast cancer the second time and you did the single mastectomy, Mommy did the tram, what she was describing was the tram flap reconstruction, right? It was during that journey, right, that your oncology team suggested getting tested for the BRCA, because we skipped to the BRCA, but that was when they encouraged you to do the genetic testing for the BRCA mutation, right? It was during your second journey?
And so as a result of getting tested, that's when it was discovered that I carried the BRCA gene. And my oncologist was wonderful. He suggested that you need to get your daughter tested as well, so that you can at least be monitored and be on top of it. I didn't have that option at first because I didn't know. But by being very vigilant in your care as a woman, specifically and a man, but I mean as a woman, to make sure that within your family, you need to be tested so that you can get on top of it early. You have like in track and field, you have a head start, you get the line and
I like it.
you can move.
So I was 30-ish, I want to say. All the years blend together, but mommy was tested positive for the BRCA2 genetic mutation. And for me to get tested, and I remember feeling like, I'm going to get tested, but I guarantee I have it. I kind of already knew in the back of my mind, like, okay, I have it. I got to go through this genetic testing, which I'm glad that I did. And for everyone listening at that time, and I wonder if you remember this, mommy, as well, that's when Angelina Jolie had come out and said that I think her mother had passed from breast cancer.
Mhm.
She did the BRCA2. She found out she was BRCA2 positive. And she did the prophylactic double mastectomy, meaning she removed her breasts without any cancer to be preventative.
Mhm.
And everybody was coining at that time, social media, before it was real social media, was coining prophylactic double mastectomies as the Angelina Jolie. Do you remember that? They had associated her with that. At that time, she became the face of a prophylactic double mastectomy. So I remember doing my genetic testing and thinking, all right, well, if I'm BRCA2 positive, I wonder if they're going to try to get me to do the Angelina Jolie. Like I
Mhm,
was
mhm.
thinking of it like that. And I remember going to my genetic counselor and she had my results and she said, you're BRCA2 positive. And I said, okay. And she said, do you have any questions? And I said, nope. And she said, you don't have any questions? And I said, mm-mm. Do you want to talk about it? Nope. And she told me about this group called FORCE, Facing Our Risk of Cancer Empowered. It's a group of people that are genetically predisposed to cancer. Here's some information, read it over, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, yeah, sounds great. Okay, great. And I remember going out in the car, and I don't know if I ever told you this because I probably didn't want to freak you out. I remember going in the car and boohoo crying because I didn't want to, y'all know I've shared with you all. I don't like crying. So I certainly didn't want to cry in front of anybody else. But I remember going to the car crying, thinking, okay, well, now what do I do? I have this information, haven't had kids yet. You know, I know that the BRCA2 through this genetic session is associated with ovarian cancer, cervical cancer, and they encourage people to take their ovaries out. It was a lot of information and it was overwhelming because I'm like, I want to have children and I want to breastfeed and I want to do all these things. And now I have this information. What do I do with it? I can tell you now that I'm thankful that I knew my genetic history then because at 28, 29, 30, I started getting mammograms
Yep.
and ultrasounds alternating between the two every 6 months so that if cancer was in my cards, we would be able to catch it early until I made a decision of what to do with my body. So I always say, Mommy, I know you feel guilty about passing it along, even though you didn't know your genetic history.
Nope,
You didn't
I
do it
didn't.
intentionally, of course, but you and doing your genetic testing and getting me tested then saved me because I started getting mammograms.
And I guess that's a positive way to look at it. That's true because I didn't have the foreknowledge. And my oncologist, remember, he encouraged me to make sure you got tested
Yep.
for what a genetic. But keep in mind, and I'm glad we did because then you were able to every 6 months to be monitored.
Yep.
And a lot of women have a reservation about doing the genetic testing because they don't want to know what's in their family and it's scary. They're afraid. But that's my biggest message for women specifically. And I do know guys have breast cancer as well, but it's on a smaller scale. Get your genetic testing because if you don't know anything about your family, if you don't know whether you have it, really trying to just
Take your time. You're fine, Mommy.
yeah, just, taking your life sometimes in your own hands, but maybe in a way that something can be avoided or detected early enough so that you can kind of get a head start is what I want to say.
I think that's perfect, Mommy. You
Mhm.
said it beautifully. And also, I want to create space here to honor the fact that not everybody knows their family.
Mhm.
You think of people who have been adopted, people who may not know their biological family. And so we want to say that we understand that that exists as well. So to the extent that you can do genetic testing, Mommy and I are big advocates of it because I know for sure that it saved me and they were able to detect my breast cancer early because I was on this protocol given my BRCA2 mutation. And also opened the door for us to be proactive in our healthcare with other cancers associated with the BRCA2, again, which is cervical, ovarian, pancreatic, ocular, melanoma. Those are the 5 other big cancers that are associated with the BRCA2 in addition to breast. So now that we know that, I feel at least empowered to be able to do a lot more testing than I would have been able to had I not known about my genetic testing. So we went through all of that. I found out mommy has the BRCA2, I have the BRCA2. And then you got successfully through your second journey, having not to go through chemo and radiation this time because of the BRCA2. You got on top of it early. So you're able to do that single mastectomy with your TRAM reconstruction. So then we get through that. We're moving through life. Everybody's rocking and rolling. I then, a couple years later, moved to Florida and everybody's living their lives. And then what? 15 for you?
2015. The cancer resurfaced again, but back to the left breast. And so then I had to go through the mastectomy and all of that. But I guess if there's any positive to it at all, I had gone through it 2 times before. So it helped me pretty much to, yes, I was still afraid, but to put it in perspective, because again, by doing the genetic testing, being monitored with the ultrasounds and all of that, and after losing 2 sisters to cancer, then it put things in perspective that you can't have a pity party, Maxine. Get moving, girl. And so by going back and having the mastectomy on that side, it just kind of helped me get on the pathway.
And so then with your third journey, you found out, and then you did the single mastectomy with an expander, the expander and the implant.
Right.
Okay.
Which was different because with the expander, that had to be inserted and in for a period of time to allow your body, your tissues to stretch so that they could, after measuring you based on what size you felt was going to be good for, in my case, for me, never had very many anyway, but but the expander, that was a different experience because, you go through the stretching and the saline injections, trying to stretch and make sure that you're going to be okay. Your muscles are going to be okay. And then I had the implant. So with the implant in, everything from that point pretty much was smooth sailing because I knew what to expect a little bit.
And then at this point, mommy, so that was in 2015. So 9 years later, you were cancer-free still. Do you have to still get mammograms?
Yeah, I still get monitored with my mammogram and my pelvic because the BRCA gene sometimes affects your ultrasound with your pelvic area, your female, and your breast.
So you still get mammograms?
I was getting them yearly. The last one was maybe 2 years ago, and then now I'm just being monitored manually.
Oh, okay. See, I don't have, so after I did my double mastectomy last September, so I'm a year and a month cancer-free.
Yay.
The double mastectomy removed the cancer from my right breast, and given that of my BRCA genetic mutation and having the power of knowledge of that in advance, I chose to just remove both so that I didn't risk having it come in the other breast or come back to the original breast. But through my cancer care, once they said you've had a double mastectomy, I no longer need mammograms, which is why I was surprised that you're still getting them, that I no longer need mammograms. Okay. They can still do breast ultrasound. So I still have breast care. And yes, transvaginal ultrasounds like you're talking about to make sure that the ovarian cancer part of the gene or the mutation, doesn't result in anything. It's going to be weird for me to not have mammograms because that's been such a part of my routine. But following doctor's orders, they say once you've had a double mastectomy, then you don't need the mammograms, but I will still get ultrasound. So technology has changed so much, especially since your first journey in 98. It's evolved a lot.
A lot. And I think with the mammogram, for me, pretty much because of the lymph node problem that I had on the left side, on the right side, they wanted to check to make sure that under my axillary area that even though I've had the mastectomy, just to make sure.
Okay.
Yeah. And so, after putting me on the hormone, because mine was estrogen related, each cancer is different. And I think maybe that might have been a difference, but 5-year plan on estrogen blockers so that hopefully nothing else surfaces. I think maybe the last couple of years they were just being proactive.
Amen to y'all. You know, keep being proactive because we need Mama Beal in the place to be for a lot longer. And it's such a blessing being able to record this episode with you because I don't think even given that my journey is so recent and then we switched positions where I was then in the passenger side and the driver's side, you were in the passenger side watching me go through my own journey. I was hyper focused on just getting through it. You were hyper focused on Mama Bear and making sure that we were getting through it. And correct me if I'm wrong, I feel like this is the first time that you and I have had dedicated time to talk about our respective journeys and to celebrate each other because we, for the first time in a year, are both removed from it.
Yep.
We both gotten through our respective journeys and hopefully that's it. It's so beautiful to be able to sit with you in this space and just celebrate you. Thank you for being my Shiro, which you've always been, even when you wanted to strangle me back in middle school when my sassy mouth started. But, but for being my Shiro, for you went through your cancer journey 3 times the hard way so that I only had to go through it 1 time. It is a blessing. So thank you for, even without even knowing it, protecting me.
Good. Thank you. Because you always have that guilt idea, making sure that your daughter that you love so much and that you're very protective as a mother, and all mothers know that we protect our kids no matter what. But you're doing well. You're on the positive road. It helps me to be positive, knowing that you're getting great care and you're proactive. Things that are in your control, I tell people, it's in your control. I would advise you to do it. People have different reasons for why. Maybe they don't want to know, they don't want to do whatever, for whatever reason. And that's your right. But it's been a blessing for us.
Absolutely. And I will tell y'all, in addition to leaning on Mom, since she can empathize, she can be compassionate, of course, but empathize because she's gone through it. It just opens the door for lots of open conversations like this to other women in the communities that have either gone through it personally, have gone through it in a supportive role, or may go through it at some time in the future that you may not even know that is in your future. So please know that Mama Beal and I are here as support systems, as resources, and just to be able to do this together. Thank you all for allowing us to share our stories. I'll ask you one more question, Ma. And I think you have answered this already, but just to bring it home. If you had to tell the cancer supporting community and the BRCA2, not just the BRCA2, the BRCA community as a whole, and any other genetic mutation communities, and one note to leave on, what would you say?
Please don't be afraid. Go for it. Get your testing. If you're a person that does not feel like you have the insurance, you don't have the means to do it, there's so many organizations through the Cancer Society that will make it available for you to do it. And now the testing, before it was a blood test, now they have a swabbing mechanism that you don't have to be poked, that they can be they, meaning your doctors, whoever your medical professional is, can check for you and give you resources, even if it's further down the road, to make sure that you are protected. So I wouldn't let the fact, if you did not have insurance, if you did not have maybe certain resources to do it, check with your Cancer Society. They're very good with connecting you with whoever you need to be connected with, and just go for it. You have nothing to lose but a life if you don't do it.
I love that. And I would say I'd add to that, yes, we truly believe in the power of knowledge and understanding what our genetic makeup is. We will drop in our show notes additional resources. So the resources that Mommy mentioned, there's some other resources out there that can even start the conversations with your primary care physicians on why you may want to get genetically tested. If you have a history of cancer in your family, you can use that and say, we have a history of it. I want to get tested. Because once you know your genetic makeup, then you can get a protocol in place. For me specifically, once I found out, in addition to my mammogram ultrasound alternating protocol, I get my mammogram, then 6 months later, I get my ultrasound, and we would rotate. But in addition to that, because of the cervical and ovarian pieces, there's a transvaginal ultrasound that I get every 6 months. Because of the pancreatic component, I was getting an abdominal scan every year. So there are protocols that your team can put in place to make sure that they're staying on top of things. But they really will do that primarily if they know that you have a genetic mutation. So please get yourself tested. We will drop the notes in our show notes. So some resources that you can leverage. I'd also say, as someone who tends to, me, y'all, not necessarily want to lean on people and want to just kind of take things on the chin, so to speak, and then just move forward. I don't think that we always realize just how loved and supported we are by the people that are in our circles. So not to be afraid to lean on people if you're scared, if you just have these strong emotions. Mommy and I have talked a lot about being positive, but we also want to honor that there are moments when you may not be positive, and both are okay. So leading with the positivity is great. But also, if you have those moments of sadness and fear, those feelings are real as well. So both can be true. And I would say the only other thing is, knowledge is power. And Mommy, I always like this. Someone gave this to you when you were going through your first journey. Do you want to say what that saying was on that plaque that they gave you about the tea bag?
The fact that we can be just like a tea bag. You won't know your strength in hot water until you get in it.
Yeah.
I used to make, and I thought I always keep that in the back of my mind because it's true. You can take a tea bag and you don't know what your strength is until you actually confronted with it. And the tea bag example was perfect.
It was. You don't know your strength until you're in hot water, which is true. And I thought of one other thing I'd like to end on. We talked a lot today about breast cancer in women, and Mommy mentioned it as well. Yes, there is a community of men who are also breast cancer survivors. Beyonce's father, Matthew Knowles, is very open about his journey being a breast cancer survivor. And I believe he is a BRCA2 genetic carrier. He has that mutation as well. You don't have to be a woman to have breast cancer or to get checked. So if you have cancer in your family and you are not a woman, please also get tested as well, because you are open to other cancers as well. And knowledge is power for our non-women identifying community. So with that, thank you all for joining us. Thank you, Mama Beal, or Mom, just as I call you, for, number one, you're just cute, but being here today just to share your journey, because it's brave to put yourself out there on blast for people to know more about you. So thank you for being brave and sharing your story, but thank you for being brave as a cancer warrior and getting through all of your journeys the way that you have. Thank you for saving me by teaching me to be proactive in my healthcare and paving the way. So we wouldn't be the family that we are without you. Hands down.
Thank you. I'll take that as a compliment and I'll say, yay.
You were cute, boy. Thank you all for joining us today. Thank you, P, for having Mom sit in as the co-host for this episode on Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Please do your self-exams. Check in with your primary care physicians if you have any thoughts or questions about genetic testing. We talk a lot about BRCA2, but there's BRCA1, there's PALG, I believe. There are all of these other genetic mutations that are associated with cancer. So please talk to your primary care physicians and your medical team about it. I also want to give a shout out to my team at Florida Cancer Specialists with Dr. McKean and her team being my oncologists, to Jupiter Medical through their dynamic care through my oncology breast surgeon, Dr. Rimmer, and his Donna, and the team at Jupiter Medical, Sue, and my plastic surgeon, Dr. Lickstein, for putting me back together, if you will. My infectious diseases team, Dr. Diaz, and nurse practitioner, Adriana Rodriguez, because as you all know, I had a massive staph infection during my expander process, and that set me back 4 months through my reconstruction journey. But my infectious diseases team was great. There was even a nutritionist within Jupiter Medical that gave me a lot of advice. I think her name was Marisol, a lot of advice on things to eat that could help my cells regenerate. So it takes a team. So thank you so much to my oncology and reconstruction and infectious diseases team for getting me to where I am today. A year later, we are as strong as our medical team.
Yeah. And the other thing that I wanted to add, you're right. If you have great a medical team around, but again, for those that are concerned with, not having a medical team, not having a primary doctor, you can always go to your nearest clinic.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's a clinic that normally offer special services, free services that will connect you with whoever in your area, wherever you are. So those resources are available as well if you don't have a primary care.
Amen, sister. And we'll drop that information in our show notes too, so we can keep spreading the word about breast cancer awareness and all the things that we can do to stay proactive in our healthcare, but to find teams that will support us through our journey. So thank you, Ma, for being so open. Now I got to get to my poker table and play some poker, win my money back before we get on the plane tomorrow. So love you, Mommy. Thank you.
Love you too.
All right. Love you too. Thank you all for listening to this episode, Blank is a Mother podcast. Please follow us on Instagram at Is a Mother Podcast. And we will be back after this month with some more dynamic episodes. And we'd love to hear from you of other stuff that you'd like to hear. So thank you. And go call your best friend. We'll be in touch.
Thank you so much for listening and being part of our conversation and our inner circle.
Follow us on Instagram, _ Is a Mother Podcast. And we look forward to you and your best friends joining us next episode.
Leave a rating on this podcast app. It really helps us get our conversations to more friends out there, more friendship circles, and more women and more mothers. And that's what we're here for, to broaden the conversation, to bring everybody into the circle.
Thank you for listening. Thank you for joining us. We'll talk to you soon.
Go call your best friend.